Hello and welcome. It is Allf United. We are back marginally late thanks to technological dramas between laptops and phones, which is ever so exciting. And you join us with 10 minutes left of the first half between Spain and Georgia. And Georgia leading 1-0. So loads going on, loads to chat about with everything that's happened in the Euros. It's a bit of an international flavoured theme tonight. So let's see how we are doing and maintaining that international flavour. We have our very own new Hyundai owner, Mr. John Commode, just below us over in Liverpool. Not in Liverpool, in Florida. How are you getting on?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, I got a new vehicle which I've called Eric. So I just thought it's a new red one, of course. So but yeah, all good here, nice and humid. So, but no, I'm good. I'm good.
Do you know, usually there's a reason why I make some sort of balls up like that, and I have no idea why Liverpool went into my head there. But there we go. It's happened, and we'll have to get over it. Matt, let's see how we can knock balls up our introduction for you. Lovely to have you back, dear boy. How the devil are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. A bit drained after the England game, but yeah, kind of glad that one's over now, to be honest.
No, I think you, me, and about a million other people as well. And of course, my right hand man on the left hand side, as ever, Mr. Danfield. How are you, sir?
Relieved would be the best word to describe my current mood. I was about 30 seconds away from launching my phone out the window. Turns out I didn't need to.
That's two of us that have nearly thrown our phones out the window today, then. So, be interested to see if that can happen to anybody else. But yeah, we're going to crack on with a few bits and pieces. And obviously, we ourselves sat here, Mr. Johnny K didn't, because he wasn't on that show. We did talk about who we thought would win and where we would be and all that sort of thing. So naturally, we will have a little. And that's an equaliser for Spain. So there we go. Spain look to be level. There's a few people quite happy there. So little interruption there. Sorry, as the Spaniards get themselves a little bit excited. Unless there's a VAR interruption there, that is 1-1. So there you go. Goals as they go in, as we are here, providing, of course, my internet is keeping up to pace with everybody else's. So, John, we're going to start with you because we've not really had much of a chance to talk the Euros with you. Looking through the group stages mainly, how have you felt this tournament has gone so far? Have you found it entertaining or where have you sort of been with it?
Yeah, I mean it's. Up until the Netherlands-France game, there were goals in every game, weren't there? And I'm intrigued that obviously this. You've had unusual things happen, like Group E, all four teams got 4 points, and last minute drama and everything. So it's been a good tournament. I think up until the England, Slovenia, and the Denmark-Serbia game, which were both 0-0, and I think Belgium finished 0-0. It wasn't. I don't think it was the greatest last round of games in the groups, but I think it's definitely been some good games. I think Netherlands-Austria has been game of the tournament. I think Turkey versus Georgia was another good game. So it hasn't been short on drama, and obviously we'll discuss England, Bellingham's hold today, but it's been what I find interesting is that teams like England, like France, like Portugal, they were the 3 favourites, you'd say, before the tournament, and all 3 of them have struggled to some degree, but they're still in there. Obviously, I think France been a bit disappointed in England, obviously, but we're through to the quarters. Obviously, France and Belgium will be a good game. I think that's tomorrow, isn't it, or Tuesday? I can't remember. But no, it's been a good tournament. There's been drama, and overall, the bits I've seen of it have been quite good to watch.
No, I think that's a fair kind of summary on that one. And speaking of summary, I can confirm that goal did indeed stand, even though there was a VAR check, as there often would be. But it's all good, and Spain are level with about 4 minutes remaining. So, listen, we did the group chat. We had that conversation at the weekend. So, Matt, we're just going to come to you because yesterday was quite a big day in terms of the football as well. I'm going to ask you and Dan together on this one. I've checked through our predictions. I don't think any of us in the history of the world would have thought we would be looking at a Switzerland to Italy nil scoreline. But that's exactly what we got. Do you think the Swiss deserved that victory? I mean, it's a bit of a shock, wasn't
it? Yes and no, to be honest. I wasn't overly surprised. I think it's what Italy where they used to be. I think they've lost quite a lot of the higher caliber players, like obviously Chiellini, Bonucci's quite a big loss for Italy. They seem to be experimenting quite a bit with their team now because there's quite a lot of newer players coming into the fold a little bit. I just don't feel that Italy are quite there and quite at the same level as some of the other top European sides at the moment. So I wasn't surprised, but on the day, Switzerland were absolutely fantastic. I thought they fully deserved the victory, and fully deserved. Wasn't overly surprised, to be quite honest. I thought they were because there was a few saying they were the favourites going into it, and I think the performance kind of proved that.
It's interesting, Dan, because he's not wrong. Italy weren't fully at the races. You know, this is a side that obviously 4 years ago defeated England in the final on penalties. Bit of a worry, I feel, that they've dropped out. But as John said a little bit earlier on, some of these smaller teams are really starting to are really starting to flex their muscles. So, you know, how did you feel about the Italy-Switzerland one? Because running back over your immense predictions, you didn't even have Switzerland making it through to the round of 16. So that must have been quite a shock to now see them in the quarterfinals.
Do you know what? I think Switzerland are one team that everybody overlooked when we was doing predictions, and I'm not sure why, because they've been steadily good for the last few years. So it's not like they're a bad team.
Matt Adam Dan is coming up as a third place one, just to give
there you go. So at least one of us knew what we was talking about. But yeah, I actually was talking to my brother yesterday afternoon on the drive back from work, and we both said that Switzerland will beat Italy, and it'd probably be comfortable because Italy just aren't what they were. I thought Switzerland were better than them all over the pitch. It was, there was a canter Switzerland, to be honest. They didn't find it difficult at all. I can't remember whether I had Italy to qualify or third. I don't think I fancied them to do that well this tournament, to be honest. They shouldn't have beat us 4 years ago. It was awful. We scored after a minute and then sat back for 90 minutes. So, like, any other team would have beat them 4 years ago. So I'm not overly impressed. I'll be honest, I'm massively impressed with Switzerland. And after what we've seen today, I'm not looking forward to playing Switzerland.
Well, I mean, it's a reasonably fair thing to say. The Swiss statistically are amazing, but we will come back to Switzerland on that one. But John, just to finish off that game for you,
yeah.
I mean, it raised my eyebrows. To be fair, Andrew Wall did also say that Switzerland would make it through in third place. He would have been here tonight, but he's obviously off in Stourbridge, I think, having a little bit of a bevy watching the England game. So, for you, John, was it a shock? Because I don't know why. I just still felt that Italy would just about squeeze past Switzerland and make it through to the quarterfinals.
I mean, I always thought it was a game which could go either way. I personally did predict Switzerland's win. I thought they'd probably win 2-1, so they did a bit better than that. But no, I wasn't surprised Swiss won. Like I said, I think Italy clearly a team in transition. It's weird how Italy have won the Euros, but they failed to qualify for the last two World Cups, and obviously they've lost several players from the time they won it at Wembley 3 years ago, and obviously that is going to impact them. And traditionally, teams don't tend to do well the tournament after they've won the trophy, 3 or 4 years prior. But Switzerland well organised. You can't ignore the fact they were very close to beating Germany as well. So they very nearly topped that group if they had held on for a couple more minutes. So they have been maybe along with Austria, possibly the team of the tournament so far, possibly a contender for it. But they've been well organised. It will be a tough game for England. But on the flip side, maybe there was something shining on us today, and that moment might spring us on to hopefully pick up a couple of results. But it'll definitely be a tough game against Switzerland. They're well organised. And they, if you look at throughout the years, Switzerland have always been a well-organised team. They have picked up results against the big nations, so you can definitely say they're not to be taken for granted. But yeah, it was a very good performance from them. Italy didn't offer much, and a very fine second goal by Vargas, wasn't it? So yeah, very, very impressive from them.
No, fair points. Obviously, it will be Switzerland and England. We will get to that as we move through the show. But we have to look at the other game that happened yesterday. And Germany-Denmark, another 2-0 win in the end. But it was an absolute doozy, wasn't it? I mean, I tweeted, Matt. We've never seen it. A game that's stopped off at the point that it did. Off they go for weather, which I think was the right decision to make when you look at the amount of lightning there was going on.
Yeah.
It does make me interested that actually, if you've got to put the players away, but the fans can just sit there, it makes you wonder, doesn't it, quite how bad it might particularly be. But obviously, they all went off. I tweeted that it looked like The Undertaker was about to come out because it's absolutely unreal looking at some of those pictures. But Denmark were really in that game. All the way through. So even though it was 2-0, it was an incredibly tight game.
Yeah.
Germany, I had them down as winning the tournament. But when you looked at the like of Rasmus Højlund and, of course, Christian Eriksen, Højlund had that opportunity just before half-time that would have put Denmark ahead. How did you feel watching that game? Because it really could have gone, I think, either way. And it took a disallowed goal then and then a VAR check on a penalty to really give Germany that sort of step up that they needed to get what was a good second goal in the end.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it was a 2-0 game. I think the scoreline kind of flattered Germany in the end. I think Denmark were really hard done by, I felt. Because at the start of the tournament, we talked about looking at the technology that they were bringing in to the tournament. I think that mixed in with the interpretation of the rules now, for me, it's getting a bit silly now, to be honest. Like, you look at the offside, it's literally his toe, his big toes offside. It's like, I get that's the rules and that's how it's interpreted now, but for me, I think it's just getting a step too far in the way they're interpreting it. And the handball, for me, I just don't see how you can give handball for it in any, like, his hand's quite close to his body. They're talking about his body is like a pivot angle. I don't see how it makes much of a difference because it's literally that far away from the ball. So yeah, for me, Denmark were hard done by. It was just Germany were always going to win it. they always seem to find a way. They're like what Italy used to be, to find a way of winning. But yeah, no, it was. I'd say a good performance from Germany, but in the end, the decisions have gone against them, and ultimately Germany are the ones that have gone through.
See, it's an interesting one. I was going to go down the Højlund and Eriksen route, but I think you brought up two very interesting points, and again, it just goes down to the technology that's available. As you just said, what I like about these offsides is that the line is drawn, that's it, you're offside. It doesn't take years to work it out. It just is. Now, what I'm hoping will be the eventual evolution of this is that offside will finally become a thing, as I've advocated for many times whilst I've been on here, which is that actually, a bit like the Wenger idea, it should be if there's space between you and the defender, then that's offside, because then you've got a clear advantage. Like you just said there, you can be offside from your big toe, but you can be offside through having, I don't know, 9/10 of your body in front of the other person. And there's a big difference between 9/10 of your body. You know, when they talk about making a yard of space, that is your yard of space. There was no yard of space there, but it was technically offside. But equally, it goes down the other route with a handball, which to me is just, it's his hand, that's it, just give the penalty. Because the problem that everybody's got, and it is a problem, is they start wondering about where should the hand have been? Was it in an awkward position? Would your arm have been there if you were dropping down in that way to make that challenge? Was it natural? Was it unnatural? And you're asking a load of questions that people aren't necessarily really qualified to make. Who's to say what a natural position is? You know, you look at everybody when they jump and move. You know, if that was the case, that everybody moved the same, when they did FIFA, they wouldn't need other players to make lots of different moves and do all those sorts of things. In the wrestling games, they used to have the wrestlers do their own moves, so they moved like those wrestlers. It's I think it was handball. At the end of the day, it hit his hand, and you just kind of have to give that. But why not stick with that? Because it is a slightly emotive one. Dan, you've banged on about VAR regularly over the course of the last season. Are you finding it working a bit better here in Euro 24, or is it still winding you up?
No, that 5 minutes of football yesterday, for me, it shows that football's in a really dark, shitty place at the minute. Pardon my French. Dark place at the minute. The offside, and I do stuff like this. I've gone away and I've tried to understand how the technology is used, the way they use it, etc. So all the AI silhouettes are the same. So if it was Akinfenwa being marked by Dan James, even though one of them's absolutely massive and one of them's tiny, the AI silhouette is exactly the same. The shoe size is the same, the stature's the same, everything. So basically, if you've got a size 11 foot and someone's got a size 7 foot and you're a toe offside, you actually could have been onside, but the AI just, you're exactly the same. You're the same size, height, weight, width, everything. So it's not fit for purpose to decide something that's so minimal. There's still margin for error. So for me, they should change the law to very simply, if the margin for error is X amount, it can't be offside because we don't know factually if it is. So if you're a toe offside, just give the goal. And then if you can clearly see someone's offside, then don't give the goal. But it's the same with a handball. I agree in the sense for the terms of for the reasons of consistency, you might want to give everything that hits an hand as handball, but footballers are intelligent. It won't take 6 months for them to just start flicking the ball up at people's hands. And then that will be a penalty every single time if you go down that route. There's got to be a sort of it's an opinion in essence. It's got to go down to opinion with handball to a point, because otherwise players will just run in the box, smash it his hand as hard as they can, and then that's going to be given as a penalty.
But with both of the things you've just said, Dan, it goes against everything that we've been talking about all year, because we spoke too much about how it's too subjective. And handball is subjective. It's been subjective since the day it was there, which is people were trying to guess people's intent for getting the ball. And you can't really do that unless they're going to make it that the handball is deliberately, is stopping a goal or something like that. But it needs to be something that's tangible. The offside, whether you like it or not, is tangible. It makes sense. But where you started saying there should be a margin of error, where does that margin of error stop?
Or whatever.
So it's like, why not stop a couple of centimeters more? Or
it's like cricket.
There's got to be an arbitrary line somewhere, hasn't there?
Yeah. So in cricket, there's a margin for error. So the technology knows that it can make a margin of error of X amount, and if it's within that amount, they'll say.
And it's based on
what's the amount?
The initial decision.
Oh, I don't know what the amount is in the football.
That's what I'm getting at. How do you decide? How are we going to decide?
The calculations
everybody's got different body weights and body shapes and sizes. So what's going to be the perfect amount for a margin of error?
For me, offside's really, really simple. The offside was designed to stop goal hanging. So if you bring in a rule where there's a clear advantage to the attacker because he stood offside, then you give the offside. But a toe or the point of your elbow or the tip of your head shouldn't be offside. So if it's to the point, it's so marginal, we're putting lines up, just let the goal stand. Like, don't get me wrong, if your full top half's offside and you can see it clearly, just give the offside. But there's got to be a better way than guessing with tech, because what's happening there is the guessing with technology to the millimeter, and there should be a margin of error if you're going to do that, because it can't tell you to the millimeter if it's offside. We saw it with the FA Cup semi-final goal for Coventry. There's nobody knows if it's offside or onside. We've gone off sort of an AI side with the lines and human error, and it's the same now. It's still only semi-automatically offside, so there's still some human input somewhere that we don't know about. So this
in a
still
weird position here, Dan, because I kind of agree with you and disagree with you at the same time.
I'm the same. Honestly, I'm the same. I'm the same with myself, because it's always been this. That's how offside's looked at. But there's just got to be a change. That 5 minutes of football for me yesterday was devastating. It just showed how bad the state of the game is. I'm sort of starting to lean towards. I don't know whether you've seen Postecoglou and what he's been saying. I'm starting to lean towards the way he's talking about it. So if the referee is 4 yards away and sees something and it's not a clear and obvious error, then just let it go. So if on the pitch,
Yes, this is what I mean. There's too many people. There's too many voices. There's one referee, and for me, that ref should be the one that does it. It should be the ref's opportunity to go and look at it and use the technology if they wish.
Yeah, but no one should talk to him if he's going to do that.
That's what I mean. There's too many people.
It's like the offside yesterday. They didn't give it on the pitch, and because it's such a small margin for error, just let the goal stand. And then and that's the way forward. That, like, I agree 100% that we've got to stop getting in the ref's ear when he's going to the monitor. I saw one the other day. I can't remember what game it was in, but he didn't even go to the monitor to look. He just gave the decision. And I was like, why has he not gone and had a look himself? And it's because another referee somewhere else has made the decision for him. And he should just, no volume, just go and have a look. Right? What? Don't even tell me what you showed me. I know what I saw. Have I seen that again on the replay? No, I haven't. Yes, I have. Decision made. But there's too many cooks, in essence, is what's.
Would you go along with that, John?
Yeah, and the other factor you got to bear in mind is you don't know exactly when the ball comes off the player's foot as well, which is also important. And I think the Danish coach was saying that with the BBC at full time, that you don't know precisely the moment. So it's a lot of the time the offsides are based on maybe when the ball is a yard ahead after the player's kicked initially. It can be a split second after the player's made contact with it. So even these fractions, when you know exactly when it comes off the player's foot, could also be a factor as well. I do think it was probably offside, unfortunately, but I do think this offside. I do get Dan's point about, people's bodies are different. You got to know exactly when the ball. Like you got the technology in the ball now to suggest that when the ball connects with the player's hand, that's how Germany got penalty. Surely there should be something in the ball to suggest when exactly it came off the player's foot for offside as well, because that can be a factor in whether a player's offside or onside. But it was close. I initially thought the offside was given against the goal scorer, but then when we looked at the replay, then unfortunately maybe probably was just offside. But yeah, it's just I know our friend Stewie, he's done shows with Keith Hackett, former Premier League referee, and I always for older generation, I remember my father asking what was what's the easiest rule to understand in football, or what's the shortest rule in football, and this referee said the offside rule. But it's been so complicated now over the last 20 years or so And David Ellery had a lot to do with it in the Premier League around 20 years ago, where it was like second to last defender and everything. It's complicated the whole thing. And there were times where, some referees would say that was a goal, some would say it wasn't. So you get this debate amongst referees as well. But Germany did do enough to win. Like you say, Højlund had a big chance to at the end of the first half. He also had a chance when it was 1-0 as well, just before they got a second goal. Now he obviously shot it straight at the keeper. I think he needs to go across then. This is where, we're talking about Van Nistelrooy potentially coming in. This is one part of the game where Højlund needs to be a little bit more better. But yeah, we're always talking about refereeing decisions, and how Michael Oliver's a referee at the tournament speaks volumes, I think.
I mean, it certainly does. Another possible option would be to just get rid of technology altogether and get rid of Sky Sports altogether. And just put go back to like the FA player, just one camera.
I think
gives you a look of what's going on. So he can't go back and go, oh, look, this is what it was. And then that way you give the power back to the referees. But it's very interesting. But
I just want to add as well,
go on.
The frustrating thing for me in particular is we have literally seen Michael Oliver last season turn down penalties for, I'm sure he was the referee, and Garnacho shot through Spurs and it hit Romero on the hand and he didn't give it. So why has he suddenly changed his interpretation of the handball law for the Euros, but refused to give them penalties in the Premier League?
But why is it? He didn't give it though initially, though, did he?
Yeah, but it's still VAR that's English that's given it. So why have the English referees suddenly changed the way they're interpreting the rules when they're supposed to be the same for every single competition?
Is there a bit of a differentiation between UEFA? We say that in the Champions League, these things get given.
Yeah, but it's the same law. So are we interpreting it wrong with the English referees and everybody else is doing it right? So we need to start doing that in the Prem, or does that make sense? But it's about the consistency, and this is the point you're making, where every handball should be given.
I am surprised, though. That's the first penalty that's been given for handball this tournament, isn't it? I don't think we've had another one, have we?
Can't think of one off the top of my head.
Because I'm quite surprised that's the only one we've had. I would have thought there would have been a few more potentially.
I want to point out as well, aside the big decisions, so you take the big decisions away from the game, that referee was still absolutely awful for Denmark in every single 50-50. It was very much I call them home referees, because it's in Germany. He was very much swayed by the fact he was in Germany. He gave every 50-50 to them. Every middle challenge went their way. So I thought he was poor in general. Even the debatable decisions, they're not really debatable because it's offside's factual to the technology, and you can see why they've given the handball, because that little noise thing that they've used is just baffling. It made me laugh when it came up, and it's just little lines off his finger, and I'm just like, what am I watching here? Is this football?
Again, you see, I feel there's a real snobbery about what's trying to be done here, because, and also a real degree of football fans actually just not understanding what they're doing in football, because we see this technology, we talk about technology, how we've seen it before when we look and we go, well, did it hit the hand? And what they're doing is they're trying to use the technology to go, did it hit something? And we've seen it before when the hand's been out, and if it brushes it, it's still handball. And that's all they're trying to do with that, is to try and work out, has there definitely been a touch? No different. You use the cricket, no difference, checking whether or not the ball has hit the bat or not. And my problem with it is that everyone's just having to go at the technology, and they're forgetting the fact it's the humans. The humans are going to make errors, whether we've got technology or whether we haven't. And there's going to be arguments, just like this, whether we've got the technology or whether we haven't. But that is why, in my very humble opinion, as we've already said, and we have all agreed, the laws need to change, but they need to change so that they are maintaining still a good advantage for everybody and that they're still fair. And that's what I mean. That little gap, I think, between the players would be good for that. And handball is just handball. And you say, well, people will learn that they can do that. Football's evolved like that over tens and tens and tens of years, over decades, it has changed through the way that people played. Johan Cruyff did a turn, and then all of a sudden everybody wanted to do it.
The thing for me though there is if everything that hits a hand in the penalty is given, in the penalty area is given as a handball, there are players in football currently that would get 10 penalties a game because you could Jack Grealish, for example, would know that he could run into the box, do a little step over, flick it, and it will hit someone's hand. It will happen. So he will suddenly be worth £400 million because he will get you 10 penalties a game. So I agree to a sense. Like I like the rule they've got where if your hands is it above your elbow but above your shoulder, they're saying it's unnatural. So I do understand it to a point where they're trying to go where it's a consistency thing. But then I think half the people complaining, like myself, we watched the Premier League. There was a turn down all last season. Whereas if we maybe had spent the whole season watching them get given, we would have gone penalty that because it's sort of ingrained to what we used to. Like when it. I mean, I don't know about yourself, but when it happened, I didn't even see anybody appeal. And then it went on a little bit, and then suddenly I'm watching a replay with this flickometer thing, and I'm like, oh, he has brushed his fingers. Are we giving a penalty for that? Yeah, we are. Okay, fair enough. But like I say, it's just because it happened all so close together, you were like, what have I just watched?
People will take it, but his arm is out. And Matt, his arm is out.
Yeah.
His arm is out. Yes, he's going down, but his arm is away from the body. And Dan says that people will take the rule if they see it applied consistently, and it has been for the most part, with the exception of the fact that obviously
we watched
Coventry got a penalty.
I'll tell you,
after we had a go and didn't get a penalty for the exact same thing. But in that 1 minute, John, Matt's been quiet for a while. Bless him, he's falling asleep over there. For you, are you hearing what the three of us are saying here? Where do you stand?
Yeah.
You're quite responsible, boy.
No, I do agree. Like I say, I don't think the issue. I think I said this a while back as well when we were discussing it. I think the issue isn't so much the technology; it's the people using the technology, and that's been the case since he first introduced all the VAR and obviously all this new stuff that's come in for the Euros. That's always been the issue. But like you say, it always seems to be the English officials. And it always seems to be a difference between when they're making decisions and like European referees and officials. It always seems a bit of a difference. But yeah, for me, the problem is you've got the technology, but it's not very effective when you've got the referees and the people in his ear that are making the decisions. And every game, the interpretation's different. So for me, until that's made consistent and the rules are a lot clearer, the technology's just going to be a thing. It's just going to be there and play a role. But you're not going to get the consistency without the human aspect being figured out as well.
I'll tell you something. I don't know if my eyes were deceiving me, but I noticed in the England game that we had a free kick around 20 minutes ago. I think it was on the left-hand side of the area. We all thought Trippier was going to take, but Foden hit it against the wall, and I'm pretty sure it was blocked by this Slovakian defender, but his arm was like that, and I don't know if it hit his arm. But I was like, that looked like it might have been close to his arm, possibly, like that. And I was like, I was surprised there wasn't more of an appeal for that. But if it did hit his arm, why would that not be given? I don't think so. That's what I wanted to say, that there's debates among, the difference in the interpretations. If it did come off his arm, it looked close to it, though. And it was in the area as well.
Yeah, there's going to be debates in just about every single match you ever see, with every decision that's ever made. But what's not up for debate at the moment is that Spain have turned it around. They are now 2-1 up against Georgia with 38 minutes still to go, so still quite a while there. But it's worth bringing up that Spain game, Dan, because obviously we've all just sat and endured another England game. And I know there's a lot of people that are going to have negative things to say about the game as a whole. But what's occurred to me over the course of these round of 16 games is that every team you would have thought were the favourites struggled. So Italy were beaten by Switzerland, never really had a chance to get a foothold in the game. Germany could just have easily been behind against Denmark, just as easily been behind as to have gone on and nicked it where they did. England, of course, were behind against Slovakia and had to find a way around it. Currently, as it stood, Georgia were ahead, and Spain switched it around and now managed to come back from there. And when you actually sit there and look at some of the statistics for the countries, it is quite something, because there's a lot of people saying that we don't attack all that much. And attempts-wise, you would be correct in that one. But in terms of attacks, we've had 193 of them. We are actually fourth highest at the moment, above many, many other teams. Only Germany, Spain and Portugal have had more attacks than us. I think what I'm trying to get at there is that clearly, I mean, even with dribbles, we've got 74. Only Spain have had more dribbles than us. But we're not really seeing it. Is the problem with this that they're just not getting to the final third and doing anything with it? Like Harry Kane, he's right up there in terms of shots. I think he's had something like 15, 16 attempts, which I find absolutely just blows my mind when I think back to all of these games. Most of those have got to have been in one game, because I just don't feel like I've seen that many. Where do you stand on the England performance that you watched today? Because, like I say, there was a lot of negativity around Twitter, and even in the ground as fans were booing at the pace, I suppose it was really, the speed at which everything was building up. What was your take on the game?
It's just square peg round holes for me, and that's causing problems in attack. You've got sometimes 2 number 10s, sometimes 3 number 10s. You've got Foden playing on the left, and it's just not doing the business there for England. You've got, I mean, I've said it a few times on some of the previous shows that we've talked about England, and it's just point me in a direction that's a player that's actually performed in the games. Jude Bellingham's had a quality half an hour in the very first game, and since then, no one's really stepped up. I thought Kobe Mainoo was really good today, so you could argue he's had a decent game today. But these so-called world-class players are not anywhere near club form for the country, and it's partial tactics, it's partial players, it's a little bit of everything. So I wasn't too happy with the performance today in terms of it was slow, the build-up was slow, there wasn't a lot of movement. We're relying on Kobe Mainoo in midfield to sort of run the game. Bellingham was absolutely awful today, and he's been awful for the last few games. I mean, don't get me wrong, the goal was absolutely amazing, but it's one of them where he didn't perform or help the team for 90 minutes, really. He was more of a hindrance, and we see players like Palmer came on and looked absolute quality, so he should be starting the next game, but he probably won't start the next game. Obviously, we've lost Gahey for the next game as well, so he's suspended. It was just such an erratic performance. We turned it around in the space of 5 minutes, and then we did what we did for the 85 minutes before that, sit off and just see the game out. And I can forgive him for doing that in extra time. That's absolutely fine, because it's tournament football and you don't want to concede a stupid goal, so go defensive. They've got to do the work. We've seen every other country do that when they go up with a winning or whatever. But the first sort of half an hour watching that, I don't think, did we not have a shot on target till about, was it Bellingham's was the first shot on target? So it's just not good enough. And when you look at the quality of player we've got, it should be better. But I don't just lay it, a lot of people are just blaming Southgate and the tactics. I question the players as well, because I'm questioning the players when it's Man United, and that's square peg round holes. I'm going to question the players when it's England, because they're not stepping up to the performances. This version of Declan Rice is nothing like I watched last season for Arsenal. And you've got to question then, are them players big enough when they're on their own and away from the club teams that they're as good of a player what we see on it? Like, is Foden so good because he's got Rodri with him or Silva with him, or is he just that good? And I think some of them are being found out a little bit. Maybe they're not as good as we think they are, and they need some better players around them to provide that quality. The performance was just so hit and miss for me. I don't know how we threw, but I'm absolutely buzzing that we threw. It was a mad end to the game in particular. I was yo-yoing like nothing. It was incredible.
Well, I mean, fun fact, Declan Rice has covered more pace in this tournament, more kilometres, sorry, in this tournament than any person other than Labutka, who was obviously in the team for Slovakia today in the midfield. So he's done 49.2 kilometres, Labutka with a nice round 50. So,
Wow.
I mean, maybe there's a part of this, but actually, in terms of, like I say, coverage of the park, he's done incredibly well. He's the only Englishman, in fact, until you get to Foden in 15th and Walker in 17th, Gay as well in 18th, Bellingham, but they're all on sort of 42 kilometres. So Rice is a good 7 kilometres ahead of most of his teammates. Obviously, running around like a headless chicken doesn't necessarily mean that you are therefore doing incredibly well, but effort-wise, I think we have to give him his due there. But John, like, where does it go for you, this one? Because it really was one of those games which just didn't look like it was going to come to fruition. Little group chat with the social media guys here, and they're all going, "That's it, we're off, we're out." And I'm like, I still think we're going to score. I did say it. I was the only one who went, I think we're going to score still. But I'm allowed to have that optimism as a fan. I couldn't believe that he didn't bring a second substitution, Ivan Toney, by the way, on until the 93rd minute. And at this point, you hear the commentators saying, maybe he's saving maybe he thinks something's going to happen, and he's saving the subs for extra time. And if that is a tactic, that's a crap tactic, isn't it? When you consider that then as soon as the extra time started, within a minute, we're ahead. If we could do that, why couldn't we do that in normal time and not have to worry about playing extra time?
Well, maybe the commentator was had something which caused them to come out with tripe. I don't know, but I think it was. It reminded me very much of that Iceland game 8 years ago now. So we're lacking. We had a couple of chances. Like obviously Foden was offs. Kane should have buried that header. Rice hitting the post and everything. But I was messaging with 2 minutes ago saying like Southgate is doing the very thing that Eriksen did, Hodgson did. He's not bold enough to take off his big players when things are not going well, just in case you get a moment. And it's ironic that we got that bit of luck after he took Foden off, but it wasn't a case of tactical genius. It was a case of he should have brought him on soon. I think he should have given them at least 10 minutes, at least, but it wasn't. I thought Tony played well when he came on as well, but I think that what he needs to do, he needs to say, the problem is we haven't played well in 4 games yet. He practically keeps picking the same team. The only change he's been making is played Mainu, Gallagher, and Alexander-Arnold in the midfield. That's the only change he's made at all to the start 11 in the 4 games, and we're not playing well. And he needs to start looking at it and thinking, I'm sorry, Foden, but you're not working at this moment. It's just not work. And, why not throw, what's his name? I can't remember. Gordon. Why not throw him on? You can't, as Dan says, you can't keep putting square pegs in round holes. You need to play your best 11 with the best players in those positions. And, obviously Foden has gone away. His partner gave birth earlier this week. For me, it might be him or Saka, but one of them has to come out the side. Even Kane hasn't been up to it, let's be honest. I know he got the winner today, but I was thinking, you got to do something. You got to make a statement, right? You're bringing Kane off for Tony. You're bringing Watkins off for on for Kane, or you're bringing Gordon on for Foden or whoever. You got to do something. Yes, he did make the change, but let's be honest, it was overhead kick which rescued us. It's not great tactical thinking. It's just purely, luck a lot of the time. It was a brilliant effort by Bellingham, but this is what you got to. You can't keep playing this M11. Obviously, there'll be a change at the back because of his suspension, but for me, yeah, we look devoid of ideas, and a lot of these players are used to playing attacking football. You have Rice playing for Arsenal, Saka for Arsenal, Foden for City. All these players play for teams, or most of them do, that play good attacking football. So how they can't formulate it into the national team, you do have to question some of the tactics and decisions. But I do agree with Dan. You got to look at some of the players and thinking, Foden, you're not influencing the game. You've had a great season. Why aren't you doing it? Saka isn't really doing it. Bellingham, I know he got his overhead kick, but he isn't really doing it. There's so many players who need to start thinking, right, I need to step up. Bellingham did it today at the end, but you still got to do more as a collective if you're going to advance. But that said, we haven't played well in 4 games, but we haven't lost the game either. So it shows character to not lose when you're not playing well. That's the other thing you'd say. But we're in the quarters, but we do need to be a bit better and a bit braver with some of the decisions we make when making our starting 11.
Well, I mean, it's been quite an interesting tournament, I suppose, for England as it stands. Amazingly, Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham are both still right in the running for top goal scorer, as 3 is the most that's been scored so far in the tournament. As interesting as that point is, I think the bit for me that was really good, it was that Mainu came on or started the game, and I think looked brilliant. I mean, again, people are going to say we're biased. I don't particularly care because I've been saying this now all summer. But I think he gave more than both Conor Gallagher and certainly than Trent Alexander-Arnold in the middle there. He was just calm, composed, not necessarily trying these long passes out all over the place, but he was looking for short passes. And the thing that I noticed most about him was there was one moment where he was facing back towards his goal, but in the opposite half. And you're thinking, like most of the England players, he's just going to knock it back. And he didn't. He just did it around the corner, always looking to pass the ball forward. So how did you think that Kobbie Mainoo did?
I feel like they've been crying out for him since the first group game, to be honest. I just can't understand why it's took him so far into the tournament to actually give him a start. It just makes no sense. For me, playing midfielders like Conor Gallagher, you're not going to win the Euros with someone like that in midfield. Again, like you say, it's not us being biased because it's Mainoo. It's just natural fact. You've seen today what he brings. He doesn't play negative. He'll try and take someone on. Yeah, it might not always work, but the fact that he's got the ability and the confidence to actually do that on such a big stage speaks volumes compared to a lot of the other midfielders that he has. But I feel like Southgate's issue is he's picking people on reputation, which isn't always a good thing to do. Like you say, he's playing Kane. Yeah, he's his captain, but what's he really brought to the team? Again, like you say, Declan Rice, he's nothing like the player we saw last season in an England shirt. I think a lot of it's the club form isn't being... You're not seeing the club form on an international level. And again, I think like we put in the group chat we were discussing earlier on, I don't know if it was Dan or Andy, said about obviously the 2 City lads in the team performing or underperforming, I should say. It sort of tells you a lot that is it a lack of quality around them? Obviously, you see the difference when they're in the City team, and then when you come into an England team, the quality is not quite the same. So yeah, for me, he needs to just start playing the players that deserves to be played rather than picking on reputation. And that's been an issue for the last few tournaments now, to be fair. But last tournament, it did pay off. But my worry at the start of the tournament was always going to be the quality in the squad. I said at the start when I was doing the predictions that the defence was always going to be a problem, and it's even more so now with Wehi being suspended for the next game. So yeah, it's one of them. I'm glad they're through, but if they perform like that again against Switzerland, I wouldn't be shocked to see us go out, unfortunately. I'd be surprised who can pull it off twice if we play like that again. But yeah, we're through, but let's just see what the next game brings.
I was just going to say, it was interesting you mentioned the fact that Gay is going to be suspended, because as Dav's put here, the worry for me, it's the same starting lineup, won't be in the next one because he won't be playing. Here we go. Same starting lineup that lost to Iceland last month. There we go. You obviously hit enter just a little bit too quickly there with Bellingham apart. And Jennifer saying Cobby is possibly a Scholes reincarnation. I wasn't aware that Scholes had passed away, but there we go. England's new dynamo for the future. It's amazing how you miss all the news, isn't it, when everything else is going on. R.I.P. Paul. So, I jest.
I just wanted to make a quick point, Barry, before we moved on. It's like a sort of a question for you all. So, do you think it's an England fan problem as well, though, because of rivalries? Because we talk about, I don't know whether it was Matt or John that said it, but we talk about world-class players in the position. I'll say it now. I don't think England's got one world-class. In fact, I think you've got one world-class player in that team, and that's Harry Kane. We couldn't possibly drop Foden because he did so well for Man City last season. But why? Because if you look at it in terms of footballing ability, Eze's not that far away from Foden. He just plays in a Palace team instead of a Man City team. So why, as English fans, are we not of the opinion that, do you know what, if Bellingham's not playing very well and we shift Foden back to the 10 where he's actually in his best position, we'll just take Bellingham off, who's a very good player, and put on Foden, who's a very good player. And the same with Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker's a very good player, so's Trent. So why is it in our heads that by somehow playing Trent at right back, it's a downgrade to Walker, who's been awful, so should be replaced? I just find it really interesting that I don't know whether it's club rivalry that causes the issue, but
no, I mean,
in essence, we've got the best players, the nation that we can pick from, and apparently, we couldn't possibly drop Bellingham. But why? We've got a nation of players.
Fair, apart from the fact that if he had have taken Bellingham off, like you were calling for, we might currently be out of the trade, out of the competition.
I was going for Foden to be taken off, to be honest.
It's just I find it frustrating.
I do agree on that. I do get a sense. I've been going for Mainu to start. If Mainu wasn't a United player, if he played for Chelsea or he played for City or Liverpool,
I'd be crying.
I think the media would be calling for him to start. That's my honest opinion. So, yeah, and I thought they won't admit it, but I think Mainu was the best player today.
The problem is, the problem as well is, obviously, if you look at the players that he's not picked for the squad, like the Rashfords and the Grealishes, obviously, for the club, form-wise, hasn't been the best, whereas a lot of the players that are there now has been. If you flip it, they're not bringing the club form that they've been picked on to the actual competition. So had he brought a Rashford or a Grealish, would it have made a difference? I think it would have done.
Rashford would have played at least level to how Foden is.
Exactly.
He couldn't have done any worse.
No, I think also it's amazing for me that we're doing this. We reached the quarter practically ignoring the left-hand side. Like Trippier hasn't played well at all. Foden hasn't done anything off the left. And yeah, it's amazing that I know we've been bad. Well, not been average maybe, but we've somehow scrambled our way to the quarters. So we need to get...
The left-hand side for England has always been traditionally poor. You take it back even to when we had the golden generation. We had your Gerrard and your Lampard and your Beckhams and all of that not playing. You were still always asking who's going to go down the left. Is it Steve McManaman? Is it Joe Cole? We've never really had somebody out on that left-hand side who would be absolutely amazing. So,
well, that's because we was shoehorning world-class players to play left midfield when they weren't left midfielders, instead of just picking the best
There was a perfectly good left winger called Thompson, who was English, but he played for Celtic. And I used to watch Celtic frequently, and he was a very good left wing. He would have done the job, but because he played for Celtic, not the Premier League, we didn't pick him.
Yeah, but I think this is the problem for me. I agree. Barry said it earlier. Why are we not just picking the best players in that position, and they're the players that play there, instead of, oh, you know what? Like, we're gonna take no left back. We've not really got a proper CDM. I know Rice plays there, but he's not a proper CDM. Oh, it's 3-1 Spain. So yeah, it's just I just find it really interesting that we as a nation, we don't seem to. You know what? We could take Bellingham off. It's not the end of the world because Foden could play there, or we could take Saka off. It's not the end of the world because we've got Carlton Palmer. We can take Kane off because we got Watkins, who's really, really decent. So, we should have a really good team, but we don't let that happen.
Again, it just
we
comes
don't have
down
that
to
rotation.
It comes down to the snobbery. The snobbery. What I was talking about earlier on. You can't take off Kane for Watkins. Even I'm sitting there going, take off Kane for Watkins. Ollie Watkins. Like,
but Ollie Watkins got 36 goals and assists last season.
I know. This
in
is
the
what
Premier League.
This is what I'm getting at. Because we've not seen him in an international tournament or play internationally or even really in friendlies and do well. And because he's not playing for your traditional top teams in the country, people's, as you just said, their perceptions are that they're not at the same level. You know, Harry, I'm going to call him Harry Styles then. Harry Kane at Bayern Munich. That would have been a very different front line, that one, wouldn't it? But yeah, he's there at Bayern Munich. And he's talking about bringing Ivan Toney, who's only just come out the nick. You know, it's like they're two. It's very.
He hasn't used Tony much. This is the first time he's come on this tournament. He did a good job when he came on. He held up the ball.
2 minutes to go, got an assist.
Yeah, exactly. We can say, oh, Watkins. Kane did get the winner, but if Bellingham hadn't done that, we would have been talking about Kane missing that header, wouldn't we? This is what I mean. It's. The
mad thing from that is that he's brought Tony on towards the end there. He's obviously had an impact as extra time started.
Yeah.
But he brought him on with 3 minutes to go. And it's like he was not given any of his substitution. The commentators were saying it, the 90th minute, and he's still got 4 substitutes he could use. And you're like, there's 6 minutes left, lads. Like, you're on a wing and a prayer here. These players haven't had a chance to warm up, to get into it. You've got to give them the opportunity to change a game. And speaking of changing a game, the Spaniards are 3-1 up. It looks like it's his fairy tale over for Georgia, which means we can now start to look ahead. Because obviously Spain beating Georgia, as we've just said here, Matt, is not really a surprise.
No.
I think we all expected Spain to win. But that does set up a rather tantalising quarter-final match in Spain against Germany. How do you reckon that particular game could go?
Guys, based off how both teams have performed, again, that could be another one that could literally go either way. I don't know if you could go into that game and say there's an actual favourite. To be honest, I do think Spain have actually looked quite good in this competition up to now, to be fair. And like you say, today you didn't expect anything other than a Spain win. Also, we know Georgia beat, was it Portugal? I think it was previously. But yeah, no, we won't look past Spain today. Against Germany, it's a whole different prospect. Germany being the hosts, would you fancy them possibly? Obviously, seeing the look they got against Denmark yesterday, possibly. But it's a tough one to call, to be honest. I can't. If it was me, I had to make a prediction, I'd probably just edge Germany, maybe, just with them being the hosts and everything just seems to be on their side at the moment. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one. But it's where it gets interesting now. Gets to the quarterfinals, and it's the quite tasty ties. So all to play for.
It's interesting. Jennifer saying the Germans will sweep Spain aside. That's not as easy to say as what I thought it was. Simply too good. Goodness me, that was a bit of a tongue twister, that one. I don't want to say that after a couple of points. I didn't want to say it without a couple of points either, to be fair. And Dav saying, Southgate's obsessed with Kane. There are other options. Tony or even Bellingham on their own. Madrid using their sometimes with 2 wingers. And the boss is in. He's not a happy man because obviously Scotland are out. So he's getting a bit bitter.
Oh, they got the wooden spoon, didn't they?
They're lucky they got that, to be fair.
Yes. They got
Mind you, they like the wooden spoon because they can make their porridge out of that. My granddad was always making porridge, so gives him something to stir, doesn't it? So there we go, Connor. Off you go. Go make your porridge. John and Dan, over to you for Spain and Germany. How do you see that one going?
Go on, John. You go first.
Yeah, that'll be a tight one, I reckon. Yeah, I agree with Matt. I think Germany might edge it, and I think it'll either be extra time or possibly penalties. I think it'll be that close, but I think Germany will just edge it.
I'm going to be really normal and say that Germany are going to win because the referee's going to gift them something. It's just what I'm seeing. It's what I'm seeing in this competition.
You Connor in disguise, like with this one. Like there was only 6 minutes so that England could get through. That was it. Because that's exactly what UEFA would do. Would be to stick it. We can't even get points in the Eurovision Song Contest.
The ref,
let's get England through.
The ref generously giving us 6 minutes after booking 3 of our players inside the first 16 minutes.
I've got to say though, because that happened in a game earlier on in the competition. I think it was Italy's where they scored in the 97th minute. I have no idea where that added time came from. It should have been about 2, and they got 7 or 8, and they managed to score in it. But I genuinely think Spain have looked like one of the better teams that are in the competition so far. So I think they're good enough because Germany's defense has looked a little bit shaky. So I think it's going to be a really close game. But I actually think Spain might just pip them.
Interesting.
But honestly, that is a really tough game to call. The good fixtures come now, really good fixtures.
This is a very tough game. Behave. Let's be clear, the Slovakians were rolling around on the floor like nobody's business at times. So I think
I've got to say as well, while Connor's here, because he'll love this. Have you seen the state of some of the penalties given after what Scotland's got refused? Because it's absolutely baffling. We talk about consistency. That was the most blatant penalty I've seen all tournament. And then 2 games later, someone gets a penalty because he slightly brushed his big toe.
Apparently, the ref has been, and the VAR ref have been demoted because of that.
Yeah, but did you see the statement? So they came out in a statement and said, "Oh no, they got it perfectly right. Yeah, but we're going to send you home." So they got it right, but they're getting sent home. Brilliant.
And what I didn't think, you probably should find it funny in terms of a rivalry sense, but I still can't get over the Scots leaving their hotel whilst there's this little German band just jauntily playing the one to the coach. And God bless them, Scotland love a bit of music, but crikey, it didn't feel right or fair. But I did giggle. I can't help it. I did giggle.
It would have been better if they play It's Coming Home on the trumpet, wouldn't it?
So, but you're right, Scotland were robbed, fair enough. And Dav talking about this kid Lamar is some player. They're playing great here. And to be fair, Spain have found the gear you would expect them to find now.
Is he 16? That Lamar.
Sorry?
Am I right in thinking he's the 16-year-old?
No, it isn't. It's on Williams.
I know he's still doing like exams, I think, or something in between. So
I'll have to check it, but I'm sure
What is Nico Williams?
Well, he might have exams, Matt, but he certainly passed this test. That's all good. So tomorrow's thank you, Dan. There are some big games tomorrow as well. Obviously, the winners of Spain and Germany will play one of these four teams. You alluded to it earlier on, John, in the France-Belgium one. They're playing the 5 o'clock game. Neither of them really setting the tournament alight yet. So it'll be very interesting to see how they get on. And of course, Portugal against Slovenia. And Portugal did lose their last group game, although they didn't necessarily need to win it. What do you reckon there, John? Can you see? I mean, I'm looking at that. I'm seeing probably a Portugal-France next round. But
Yeah.
where do you see it go?
Yeah, I think Portugal will be Slovenia. So, yeah, I think they'll probably win that comfortably, maybe 2-0 or something. France-Belgium is interesting because, like you say, both teams haven't been particularly great. Of course, Belgium lost Slovakia, didn't they? So, yeah, it'll be a tight game, and plus it's like a local derby, isn't it? So I don't think you will be happy about the team they're playing, to be honest. Well, I wouldn't rule out Belgium. I don't think France have been particularly good. I don't think they scored 2 a penalty and an own goal, so none of their players have actually scored a goal in open play yet. So that will have to be resolved. And Belgium, you just don't know what you're going to get. So I do think France will probably edge it, maybe 1-0 or something. But yeah, I think they'll just edge it.
Fair points all around there on that one, John. It's 4-1 now, so Spain marching into the next round. So I do feel pretty fair in saying that. And yes, Dan, it is Yamal. So there you go. Matt, for you, those four teams, Portugal, Slovenia, France, Belgium, where do you see that going to?
Again, it's that part of the competition. It's hard to really call. Portugal, you see them get beat by teams like Georgia. Obviously, Belgium, they can be a bit hit and miss at times, to be fair, on the day. I think a lot of it now when it comes to knockouts, it's all on the day. And as you've seen today, you don't perform, there's always that chance you can get beat by anybody. So it's hard to call. I think France, you can probably look past, to be honest. Again, it's a tricky one. Portugal, is it Portugal and Slovenia, was it? You would fancy Portugal over the course of the game. But yeah, for me, probably the obvious, probably France and Portugal, you'd probably got to fancy out of the two. But definitely France, Portugal, it depends on the day. If they do another Georgia performance, you just never know. It could end up being like the England game today and they just scrape through. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, for me, I think France are my favourites to win it. So I've got to kind of back France now a little bit.
That was the team you picked, indeed. Dan, well, obviously we've got Diogo Dalot in the Portuguese side and Bruno Fernandes, of course, as well. I think we all pretty much think Portugal will get past Slovenia. But where do you stand with the France-Belgium one? Because, Belgium really have struggled to even get to this point and can consider themselves probably a little bit fortunate to even be in the round of 16. Do you think they could still get past the French?
My head says absolutely not. I think it's going to be about 4-5-0. I just can see them getting absolutely battered. But they're good. So if they turn up on the day, there's no reason why they couldn't upset France and win. I say France were heavy favourites for me. I'm with Matt. I think it's probably going to be Portugal, France that go through. I think Portugal can still win it. I know they lost against Georgia, but they made 7 changes. They rotated the squad. They'd finished top of the group. They've got minutes in the players' legs as well, which will help. So, yeah, I think that will probably go the way we expect, or we like to predict. But as we've seen today, it's just no guarantees. There is no guarantees in this tournament. I don't think it's going to be easy for anybody, to be honest. There seems to be, I want to say, we say the smaller teams, but they seem to be stepping up. The level of football is really good. The quality of the players are much better. So it's going to be close. I still think Portugal will win it, to be honest, from what I've seen. I think Ronaldo might nick a goal in the final as well. So I'm still going to stick with Portugal to win it.
Interesting. Very interesting indeed. And then, of course, the final 4 games, final 4 teams that will be battling it out on Tuesday will be Romania and the Netherlands to play against either Austria or Turkey. So where do you think we stand with that one? I mean, I've got to be honest, looking at that, I think we could be looking at a Netherlands, probably Netherlands-Austria, based on how the tournament's gone. Although, just looking at the game, I would have just said Turkey to beat Austria beforehand. But with the tournament, as I say, as it has been, with Austria playing as well as they have done, I think we'll be looking at Netherlands against Austria in the quarters. John, do you agree with that?
I think Austria will beat Turkey. I think Austria would have had a week off as well. It's also significant because the Netherlands-Austria game was last Tuesday, so they'll have a full week off, which I'm sure they'll be happy about. And Turkey, you saw them in the group stage. They're one of those teams you don't know what to expect. We involved a brilliant game against Georgia. Portugal took them apart. They beat Czechia, but they did play for over an hour against them, and they only won in the last minute. So I do think Austria will that. I don't know, Romania, Netherlands. I wouldn't rule out a shock happening. I just think obviously Switzerland beats it. I wouldn't rule out Romania beating Netherlands. In fact, I might go with that. I don't think the Dutch have been particularly great. And so in my opinion, I might just edge Romania in that, possibly. But it'll be close.
Yeah, I feel that probably is going to be the tighter of the two games. Matt, where would you go with that?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing, funnily enough. Romania, Netherlands is one of them you can't really call. Romania haven't actually been as bad as what people probably thought they may well have been at the start of the tournament. And obviously Netherlands have been a bit hit and miss. So again, like John says, I wouldn't rule out a Romania win against Netherlands, to be quite honest. But I think the other game, Austria and Turkey, I don't think you can look past Austria, to be honest. I think Rangnick's got them pretty well drilled and actually plays some decent football as well, in fairness. So yeah, for me, I think Austria against Turkey. I think Austria will be the winners in that one, but I wouldn't bet against Romania nicking it against Netherlands, to be honest, is what I'd go with.
Where'd you go with this, Dan? Because there's a lot of people saying, that teams have been hit and miss, but I think there hasn't really been. It's not really a front runner. There's not really a side that's taken the tournament by the horns effectively and looked as if they were going to run away with it. So where do you see those last two spots going to?
Do you know what? Austria's been my favourite team to watch this tournament. I think they've been amazing. Shows that if you get a bunch of players together that want to work for each other, that you can achieve something quite decent. And then the Netherlands are just so hit and miss. They're like Belgium. Like they should be so much better than they are. They're like a bit like England, really. They've got all these really good players, but we'd never see a team performance. I think both of these games could be really, really close. It could go either way. I'm going to make a prediction. One of these games will go to penalties because I do think they're going to be really close. I don't know which, but I feel like we're going to see a penalty shootout tomorrow. I would probably say
maybe it'll be Austria against Turkey, and it'll be in there in goal.
Maybe. But I think Netherlands and I would expect the Netherlands and Austria to go through from the two with how the tournament's gone so far. But I do think they're going to be really, really, really close. This is where they both finish 5-0 to somebody. Because that's been my predictions this tournament.
That would be entertaining. We've just seen another goal for Spain, but it has been disallowed. And it just goes back to what we were talking about because the line is there. You've literally got half a foot. It's like that much. It's just over the line there. Very interesting indeed. So, the last thing I wanted to bring up, that's our Euros chat. John, we haven't asked you yet, based on what you've seen in the tournament so far. And to be fair, you are getting the opportunity to pick your side at a much later date than the others. Well done. But who do you see walking away with it?
The entire tournament, I don't know. I did think France, Portugal, and England were the three favourites. I think so obviously you've gone France. You know what? It might count for something today, that England game. I don't know. I just think something was definitely shining on us. So we're not playing well, I don't think. Logic suggests I might just be the one that says England might do it, because I think the run to the final, and you look at the whole section, all the fixtures like Germany, Spain, looks like France will probably play Portugal, then they'll have to play each other. If England were on that side of the draw, we wouldn't do it. But whereas if we were to get to the final and play one of those scenes, that might suit us. So I don't know.
Well, I can confirm, going through where we would be, so it would be Germany, Spain, as it stands now. They will play either Portugal, Slovenia, France, or Belgium. So it's that half. England, Switzerland would then face either Romania, Netherlands, Austria, or Turkey. So you'd argue the route to the final is probably kind of on our side of it. And now that I've said that, obviously we'll go out against Switzerland. But
I think we underestimate that we probably got more of a chance of doing it than we think, because I know we haven't played well, but I know Switzerland will be a tough game. But with all due respect, Switzerland is not France, it's not Spain, and maybe that bit of luck we had today with Bellingham's goal might just count for something. So if we do get to the final again, I wouldn't rule us out. So I just think something might just happen. But I'm not saying that because I expect it, but the way that the other side of the draw is Germany, Portugal, France, and all them. Well, I don't know who will be. They'll have to play each other, so it's going to be hard to work out which one of those teams will get to the final. Whereas England could have a reasonable run to the final, and then in a one-off, it's anyone's guess. So by default, no reason, I might just put my stake on England.
If England win this Euros, I'm going to name my firstborn son Gareth.
Yeah, but I just think I don't know. If I'm being honest, I did think Portugal at the start of the tournament, but I don't know. I'll go England. Someone has to.
It's on his chest. He's got to do it.
I mean,
I've got to do it. I've got to do it.
To be fair, Andrew, Beanie both went England, so that's Andrew Wall and Beanie, not Andrew Beanie. I'm not giving his full name.
I do think we got a chance. I do honestly think we have a chance if we can.
Well, we're through. Everyone's got a chance who's through, but it'll be interesting to see. But fair play. That's what you've gone for. My last question is a question to all of you. So take it in whatever order you want, or don't talk if you're not bothered. It's completely up to you. I'll, play it by ear. But obviously, we've seen a fair few players for United in the Euros. We've had Højlund. Obviously, we've had Eriksen, who did incredibly well. We've mentioned Dalot. We've mentioned Fernandez, the India playing for Turkey. Obviously, Kobe Mainu for England as well. So there's been a fair few of them, but it's not just the Euros. It would be easy to sit here and just say that's all that's going on. Obviously, the Copa America has rolled around again as well. Garnacho, Alejandro Garnacho, made his first ever Copa America start today as the world champions Argentina beat Peru 2-0. It was their last group match, though. We have seen Martinez play the first two games of their group games. They went against Canada and Chile, so he was rested for the game against Peru. And I love the name of the stadium, the Hard Rock Stadium in Florida. It's got to be better than that Soft Rock, hasn't it? But it was another big thing for him. That's his first. He got his first cap for Argentina, Garnacho, in June 2023. So we've spoken a lot about Garnacho as well and his ability and how well he's done for the club, and the fact that also he probably needs a rest. So this wasn't the most ideal of things for him to go for. But just looking out across our international superstars that we have seen over the course of the last couple of weeks, the question really is, does this give us cause to be a little bit optimistic that they can run into, I don't know, similar form, better form as they come back home and get ready for pre-season, the Community Shield, and of course the start of the season?
Quite possibly, yeah. I've been watching a bit of Copa America actually because they followed straight after the Euros. I actually watched the Chile versus Argentina game, which was the second group game earlier this week. They won 1-0.
I should also add, Pellistri, because he scored for Uruguay.
Pellistri scored for Uruguay, yes. He did very well as well. And I'll tell you what, Martinez looks good. He does look good. I've obviously been watching. I've watched a couple of Argentina's games, and they've kept. I think they kept clean sheets in all the games. But Martinez against Chile was outstanding. He was absolutely fantastic. And
is this a flip side where international football actually does a club team a favour for once? Because we're in a situation where we've got players that have played a lot of the season going out on internationals. We're not ideally, over the moon about them playing. But with this one, because he's missed so much of the season, is this almost just like an extended pre-season? So therefore, could actually be quite positive for us, especially when you consider the competitive nature of Copa America.
Yeah, quite possibly. And I think obviously Martinez did get the last couple of games in the last season, and it's worth mentioning that I think he's played 4 games on the trot for United and Argentina, and they haven't conceded a goal when he's been on the pitch. It's worth mentioning that. And I think Martinez does look like he's coming back into form and hopefully doesn't have any more issues. I think he's definitely someone who you can, if he stays fit, he'll be big for this season. Sometimes you do need minutes in the legs. And Garnacho, I didn't see the game yesterday, so I can't say whether he played well or not. But in terms of his general development, you think he's there with Messi, he's there with Lautaro Martinez. I know he wasn't great United, but Di Maria, if you look at the rest of his career, has been a good player, but he's learning from people like that. So it's not just about getting minutes on the pitch, it's how you learn and develop. So, and like you say, Pellistri getting a goal, which was good. That'll be a big game because USA need to win because they lost to Panama. They had to play an hour with 10 men and they lost 2-1 and they need a result against Uruguay. So I'll definitely be watching that one. But it was very good to see Pellistri get a goal and hopefully the rest of our boys can do well. I think Argentina look good, so it might just be that I honestly think Argentina have a chance of winning Copa America. So, that's the other thing. If they were to win it, how will that impact Garnacho and Martinez? Hopefully it'll be a good thing as well. So
and it's all at a fairly normal time for you as well, John. So it's easier for you to watch in that respect. So we might make you our Copa America reporter.
Guru, yes. I don't watch every single game, but I do. Whenever there's a good game on, I do watch it. So so it's been good. I've enjoyed watching it. So and it's in America as well.
Dan, Matt, anything that you want to add to that?
I just, my only point really was I'm not going to lie, I've not watched any of the Copa America games, so I'm not going to act like I know what I'm talking about when it comes to that. But I think in terms of Martinez in particular, I think it probably will benefit him more having games obviously before pre-season starts. Obviously, towards the end of the season, he played in the FA Cup final, I think it was, but before that, he wasn't really playing. So I think the progression in the game time will benefit him more, and hopefully he stays fit throughout the whole of it. Fingers crossed. And Garnacho, it just speaks volumes to his progression. The fact that he's started for Argentina in such a big competition for them as a country. Again, just speaks volumes about his progression at club level. But yeah, it's just good to see them both playing, and just hopefully there's no injuries, and that applies to Copa America players and players still at the Euros.
Yeah, I'm quietly optimistic now as the season starts to progress. Maybe it's not as bad as we all make out. As I make out. Just seeing some of the players get the chance last season, it should kick them on, like Manu Garnacho. The club seem to be doing the right things off the pitch if you're willing to give them a little bit more of a chance to maybe get a couple of weeks into the transfer window before we start panicking. So yeah, I'm optimistic towards next season now, and obviously I agree with Matt in terms of Martinez getting the game time and certain players being away. We're really good players and getting to learn from them. It's only positives. So if we can get these new staff in place before the season starts, if we can shift out some of the players that Ten Hag doesn't want and bring in some players that will actually bolster and improve the squad, I'm quietly optimistic we can see a bit of improvement on the pitch next season. I'm not going to go as far as say as title challenge or top 4 or whatever. I just want to see something better on the pitch. Good football. If we finish 5th, but we play really like we're playing football that we can all get on board with, fantastic. But I'm praying and hoping that Martinez stays fit because he's massive for us.
Not to put any pressure on one player, I think if Martinez plays 75-80% of the games next year, will be much better straight.
I think we would have been 10 to 15 points better off if we would have had him.
I think if he stays fit, even if you don't make, I mean, we do need to bring transfers in, but even if we don't, if he's fit for most of next season, 75% will be much, much better, without question.
And hopefully the new coaches coming in will make a bit of a difference as well. Yeah. I'm more excited about Van Nistelrooy, actually, if that is actually a thing. Him and coaching Højlund, hopefully that'll come
it's
to
quite
something.
Funny because we was talking about that on one of the shows a few weeks back, Matt. Bringing someone else in to teach him how to finish, maybe a more experienced striker that actually played for the club. And then now we're getting Van Nistelrooy,
We're expecting it.
It would be amazing.
Yeah.
I think there's still the coach. I did read in the mail, is Van der Krag, is he leaving or something? I only read it in the mail.
There's talks, is it Van der Gaag? I think he wants, I think it was the Athletic said it as well, apparently he wants a number 1 position.
Okay.
But apparently Ten Hag's actually wanted changes to his coaching staff, so it's Ineos that have actually granted this for him, apparently.
Okay.
So that could only be a good thing, hopefully.
Yeah.
That'll be very interesting. And indeed, Jennifer saying keeping Luke Shaw fit will help enormously as our only world-class player, according to Tone. That would absolutely be helpful. Well, there we go, lads. Thank you very much for all of your time there. We have just about reached the end. We've covered everything we said we were going to cover. Obviously, we now know what 2 of the quarterfinals are going to look like. We know that Spain will play Germany at 5:00 on Friday, and we know that England will play Switzerland at 5:00 on Saturday. Still 2 quarterfinals to work out. You've seen us use our crystal balls to decide who it is going to be in those 2 quarterfinals, and indeed who's going to go on to win the whole thing. But we'll be back, I am sure, at some point in midweek with something a lot more just United-centric. And I'm sure we will probably be back next Saturday as well to ruminate on what's happened on England against Switzerland and see whether or not we need to carry on doing Euro shows, because let's be honest, if England are out, I can't imagine we'll really have too much more to say on that one. But to be fair, under a week more to go. And then that will be that. And proper football will be just around the corner. John, thank you so much for joining us all the way over there from Florida. It's only 7:00 for him now. He's got a nice evening.
Oh, no, it's 5:00.
5?
Yes, so 5:00. Sorry.
Evening nap.
I don't even know why. I knew that because it's 10:00 there.
Yeah.
Sorry. And Yeah, so there we go. You just gained back another 2 hours there, John. So you're welcome.
Thank you. So yes, no, I appreciate coming on, and I obviously a lot of the games I'll know when I'm working, unfortunately, but it's good because I get the Euros during the afternoon, and I get Copa America in the evening, so which is good. But no, it's been a pleasure to be on, and hopefully the tournament will continue to get better. Hopefully.
Absolutely. So thank you, and thank you, Matt, for jumping on again as well, and of course Dan for popping in. Well done, those of you in the comments as well who have jumped in and joined on for the conversation. Like I say, we'll be back midweek with a bit more midweek mayhem, I'm sure, and then back again next week to see what's happened. Until then, have a safe week, and we will see you next time.